Okay, welcome to another session of Dev Live. I'm your host Javed Mohammed here at Open World 2017, and I'm very honored to have with us today Patrick Debois, who is known as the godfather of DevOps and a whole lot more. So Patrick, thank you so much for coming.
Hi, Javed. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So I was wondering how I was going to kick off this session. I've never done an interview with a godfather before, and I was looking for some godfather quotes. So I think one of them was, I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse, but I didn't know if that was, I don't know if that was relevant. But something I thought that was even more intriguing was, while I was just thinking of how to kind of open this up, was a quote from Charles Darwin. And he said, you know, it's not the strongest of the species that survive or the most intelligent, but the one who's most responsive to change. And when I see the world of dev and ops and DevOps, and just our whole field of, there's just so much change. So just kind of rewind the time. I guess I've seen some of your interviews in the past of this kind of starting off in what, 2009,
Yeah.
And even maybe a little bit before then. So share with me, what was the world like then? Because things move so fast.
Oh, well, a trip down memory lane.
Exactly.
Where ops and dev were fighting all the time. So I guess I was working at the time for more of the operational systems guys. And I was very jealous of all the agile developers, like getting more productive, working together, and so on. And I said to myself, like, why can't we do this together with the operational people? And the time at that time was really like, okay, developers build the software, they send you a package, and then operations have to run it and have to maintain it. But there was very little dialogue, and even within Agile Scrum, the ops guys weren't really embedded as part of the team. So I was a big fan of things like Kanban and so on. So I started experimenting with using Kanban in an operational group, so we would better receive software and have like a better way of what we would now call probably the pipeline that gets delivered into prod, and also give them feedback back into the project. So in 2009, I kind of said to myself on Twitter, that's how it goes, why not do a conference? I think about 60 people showed up.
Is this the DevOps days?
That's the DevOps days, yes. I had like no idea before what I was doing. I was just like seeking people who had like similar IDs. And then we had the first DevOps days, like you mentioned, and people were so excited and full of energy. And since then, we just kept it going all over the world. But the interesting part was, even after day one, like we didn't call it really like we had any idea of what DevOps would become. But I think what really happened at the time, so it's more of a zeitgeist, the pain was very clear to everybody when you explain the problem.
Got it.
So that was kind of the context where we started in.
Okay. So I was watching one of your other interviews or presentations, and I just found it fascinating because to me it's much more than just about a technology or a methodology. You talked about, how basically how societies form, going from, I think, groups to tribes to civilization. So, and then just like how basically ideas spread through to memes.
Yes.
You want to just talk a little bit about that? Because I think it's a fascinating subject, trying to just see how societies form and grow.
Sure. Well, I think ITs very often, they often say it's the tools mimic the people in IT and in a different way. But it's also very predominantly that the zeitgeist from going to the central authorities, like we would have the waterfall dictating things, or in normal, regular society, you would have like a newspaper or a broadcaster bringing you the news. And we all got used to this kind of pseudo-authority that we didn't like. So things like Facebook came there, things that kind of questioned the central authorities. And I think we started doing the same in IT, where we started with, kind of a tailor-like model where the groups got divided, and then they could control the different groups, like the dev and the ops and the testers and so on. And then when you let the people work together, without specifically the central authority, you get a totally different dynamic. I must say, over the years, I've learned that this is very close to the belief system of people.
Okay.
Like, there's people who don't think you can do a better job by collaborating. It sounds strange, but they would say, well, if I write up the spec and I write up the API, it is much more clear than having to collaborate and discuss what we need to do. And I've had it numerous times where we ended up in a situation like, well, you should write everything you want to have, versus like, okay, let's just sit together. And this is, it's I think a change that society went through. And even though people call me the godfather of DevOps, which totally I hate, because I understand it's a tribute, but it's like I was just like one of the persons promoting the ideas, and like I say, it's a zeitgeist of the new ideas of collaborating that we were trying to achieve. So.
Okay, all right. So in terms of your vision, and obviously, a lot of this has happened out there. I mean, it's not something you directly control, but are you happy with the where we are at this point in 2017? Is it grown beyond your imagination? Is it going in? Is your hope that it'll go in a different direction? I mean, it's although as much as you may not be the godfather, but it's still your baby in some ways.
Sure.
So
I'm already have enough gray hair to have seen a couple of these trends go on. So
well, you're doing much better than I am.
Well, so I figure when I look back, we promoted a lot of culture, and we really wanted to push out the cultural model. I think when most people talk about DevOps, even here at Java One or Open World, it's going to be all about the tools. But then I tell myself, Agile became TDD and the Scrum dance, and ITIL became the help desk system and so on. But like you mentioned before, even though we have helped to change the mindset a little bit that collaboration is important, that that will always be there. Whether you ask me whether I'm happy with the current state, no, I would have wanted to have it more of the cultural part. Will it evolve? I think, there's going to be a next thing that probably is going to build on these ideas we had and just move it forward. But the nice thing is I have no shares invested in DevOps. So for me, it's not that really important, but on hindsight, for me, the learning would be how do we get better at not dismissing or the core ideas of things. Like ITIL had a very good core ideas, but the message got diluted. Agile, the same. DevOps, the same. And what fascinates me is that the industry, we don't get better at like keeping the core better alive. So there is this thirst, I don't know how to call it, but of tools and technology. There's this religion that we believe that tools and everything will solve our problems, which I think, it's definitely going to help. But if we just continue that path that everything's going to be technology, what all vendors would like us to believe, I think that's not going to be the good direction for us.
I want to share with you a little story. I was at a startup one time. I was the community manager. So whenever there'd be a customer issue, I would have to go and talk to the developers. I would have to go and talk to the operations. And on this one particular issue, the developer is pointing to the operations, and the operation, I go and talk to them. They say, no, it's not our problem. Go and talk to the developer. And literally, the two people I was talking to were divided by a partition, and they were on the opposite. So I literally said, can I please, and I literally wheeled the chair over just to kind of get them to talk. And so, but but when I see that, and typically whether it be a physical wall or a psychological wall, I think it's an incredible thing that groups that have been kind of siloed off are now communicating and being productive. So let me ask you something. Does that give us hope that the Democrats and Republicans will also start communicating and fall in love? And
who knows? I wish you all good luck. But I think like one of the parts I'm going to discuss in my talk is that so we moved on to collaborating DevOps inside the same company. But as we're increasingly using a lot of external services, it's going to be hard to, I cannot get the engineer of Google to sit like next to me. So any service we use, how do you go from there? So we need to start collaborating across companies. So that's where I see DevOps heading now in a way, like how do we do that? Like how do we build the trust? Not just only within the same company, but outside the company. And the people from ITIL would say that's supplier management in a way, like you keep good suppliers, you keep them happy, and so on. So, but there's going to be a change in how we deal with this kind of collaboration because we don't have the same boss. He cannot tell us to sit together, and that's something that fascinates me to continue. Like how will that continue? So.
Okay, well, it's a fascinating subject. I know you have a keynote to go to, Patrick. I really appreciate you coming over and sharing.
Thank you.
So stay tuned for more Dev Live sessions here at Open World 2017. Thank you.